my bots made 1,800 commits. Then I asked them, hey, this is a little excessive. What's going on? We were doing this for each one of these things. Maybe you don't want to do that. Max 200. But that bot found the other bot and said, hey, go do this thing for me while I go do this other thing. And another bot got the message, and I could see it in the chat. It says, oh, the product marketer told me to do this, so I'm doing it. What is this starting to sound like? This is your team. And this feels like power, actual automated work that I now don't have to even think about too much.
So we talk about agentic stuff all day, every day. And I feel like we're in threads, multiple group chats, coffee chats in person about this stuff. So we figured we'd just get on camera and talk about it, share it with the rest of the world. I feel like the most pressing thing that I wanted to talk about right now, because we haven't really caught up on this, is Grok Bot. So right now, everybody is spinning up bots all day. You know, you and I have been doing this for months now, but now it's being distributed to everyone. And I think even today, Cursor announced that their $20 plan has access to Grok Bot. So really, they're pushing really, really hard for everyone to have it. And everyone's sort of creating these personas. Everyone's doing a bunch of stuff. So if someone's getting started, what's the simplest thing you tell them on Grok Bot to do?
Yeah, you know, what I really like about it is the fact that it spins up a computer for you. And these are all the reasons we were putting OpenClaw and Hermes and all this stuff on computers so that the AI could use the computer. So I think what they've done is really packaged up AI being able to use a computer. So you can go all the way from something really tiny that you couldn't do with ChatGPT easily or anything. And I'll give one example, which is like LinkedIn doesn't let you scrape. There's no good MCP or anything to let you go do anything. There are things you pay for, but they're very expensive. With Grokbot, I can literally have it check out my LinkedIn. I can have it save every single page that it goes through and save it somewhere, right? That it can go access it again. I can even, if I want to get fancier, go put all that on GitHub. Like just yesterday, because of a bot, I made 1,800 commits on GitHub because of a bot. Because I was because one of the things I'm doing with Grokbot that I don't see a lot of people do, but I was doing this with OpenClaw and all that, which is have the bots do something and have it all stored in GitHub. Because then I can have other bots, whether in Grokbot or somewhere else, just go look at the GitHub repo and know what the heck happened and what's going on. Right. And now because Grokbot is outside of my other agents or even ChatGPT and stuff like that, the GitHub is the one that can connect all those things together. So that's the magic trick that I figured out with even Hermes and OpenClaw is put everything in GitHub. So yesterday, my bots made 1,800 commits. Then I asked them, hey, this is a little excessive. What's going on? And they're like, well, we were doing this for each one of these things. I'm like, okay, maybe you don't want to do that. Max 200, or something like that. And it was doing, it's figured it out and it's doing that. But there was a moment with OpenClaw. And that moment wasn't just like when I came to your conference, the first one in SF, and like there were so many people there and Ashton Kutcher was there and this and that and the other. It was actually well before that when we were actually implementing it and using that stuff because there was so much energy that people had because we were trying to implement this. And it was like we had a gift handed to us and we needed to open it up and figure out what to do with it. And we didn't want to just play with the cardboard. We actually wanted to play with the toys. Right. And so I think like that time was a moment. And that moment helped me realize that when I see something like Grokbot and realize how much friction it reduces for people, I'm all over it. I'm like, yeah, I totally get it. Like, you're totally right. But this is really freaking good. And they're going to keep iterating it. This team seems to know what to do because the first thing they shipped was essentially OpenClaw for anyone. And no one had done that before. And you could say, oh, I see this, I see that over here. But like the simplicity of this thing and how they did it, I'm still blown away.
Yeah, I think that's totally people don't realize how just removing the steps and the friction kind of opens it up to way more adoption. Because, you and I had to sort of deal with all the different times that our agents would just die and have no idea why or what. And so now, and we were like, I remember you were saying like, you're now doing DevOps.
Yep.
And so like, this completely removes the need for that for everybody. And so giving it a computer, giving it access to the internet, and people are like, oh, but you can do this with ChatGPT work, or you can do it. You can't, right? You can't see the computer, log into your LinkedIn account, you know, and do all those things. And right now they're trying to get there, right? It's interesting to see
Yeah, they
how
shipped some stuff today.
yeah, exactly. Today for people to deal with logins in an encrypted way and doing interesting things, you know, but people are pushing to the edge. One of the craziest things that I saw today is like that Elon is actually feeding people, like pushing people to the edge, where someone said that they wanted to connect their bank account to Grok Bot, but were hesitant. And he just responded, "Hey, you should totally do it. If you lose your money, we'll reimburse you like for your bank account," which is so wild to see of like how far we've come, but also the capabilities of these things. I think like one of the things that people are saying is that, oh, how can you trust it? Can you know that if you're giving access to these things, like how do you handle that? Like how do you approach those types of questions or fears that people have around, you know, giving it access to your LinkedIn or giving it access to your GitHub?
I give it access to LinkedIn and I say, don't post anything. Or even with email, don't do anything unless you've had me approve it. I think we chase automation with AI a little bit too much instead of just saying, hey, can we just check it and verify what it's doing and make sure that the access it has is constraint enough? You know, one of my favorite things about actually Claude is they have a lot of granularity on permissioning when it comes to the connectors they have. Tons of granularity. You can make some things only read only and not write and stuff like that. I haven't seen Grokbot go that far with the connectors quite yet, but they're probably going to have to. There's all those kinds of things that I would suggest. But in some other ways, I almost want to shake people and say, hey, if you're worried about this, don't do it. Do something else. Like,
right. There are plenty of things you can do. Like you don't need to give it access to your bank account. You don't even get access to your email and still have a lot of benefit from just trying. Right. And like right now, like I said, this is not an ad, but like for $20, they let you try it. And it's kind of like a no-brainer to try it. And so you go ahead and you connect this to your LinkedIn. And so one of the neat things they also did is, from my opinion, is they made it really easy to make those connections, right? The MCPs, and they don't even talk about that. They're just like, hey, it's just plugins. You're connecting to these things, and then you can give it access to it. And then, so besides for LinkedIn, or are there any plugins that you use?
There's a bunch of dope plugins. My favorite is still the Matt Van Horn, who I think you had on not too long ago.
Yep.
His last 30 days. I have a bot for last 30 days. I even posted about another bot using that bot to do some things. So in some ways, it's almost like with the way Grok Bot is set up today, and this is not how Claude and ChatGPT are set up whatsoever. So whoever thinks you could do that over there, even with the stuff they've added right now, is incorrect. Not yet. I'm sure they're trying to figure out how to do it, but there's also some value in the simplicity of I download this thing, it just does this one thing that's really expansive. So to me, it's like when we were building these inside of Slack, each agent was not like I just type and now all of a sudden I have an agent. With Matt Van Horn's thing, one of the first things I did is last 30 days, that's the thing. I just gave it to GitHub and it said, make a bot. You bot that I'm making are just going to run this type of research. Let me know what you need connected and I'll connect it and give you the API keys or whatever. It did that within 5 minutes. I gave it all the things it needed. And now it's there. And it was really awesome that it's there, that when I go there, I can say, hey, go look up all the last 30 days about Grokbot or what have you. Then I started talking to other bots doing other things like product work. Like I have a product marketing bot and that bot needs to do research. But that bot found the other bot and basically said, hey, go do this thing for me while I go do this other thing, basically. Right? And another bot got the message and I could see it in the chat. It says, oh, the product marketer told me to do this. So I'm doing it. Like, what is this starting to sound like? To me, this is your team. And you just build out agents really quickly that are all your team. Obviously, you need to know who you want on your team. You can debate how much scope should they have. Just try something. So the way I thought about it is I have product marketer. I don't necessarily want the product marketer going and doing the research. So I had the last 30 days already in there. Then I built the product marketer, but the product marketer should have context on my products and my categories and how we think about things or the positioning documents or internal documents we have. I just fed it all that. And now I have a product marketer to work across all of my things in Grokbot that also can call the other agents or other bots or whatever in there and do its job. So now when I want content and things like that, in the past, I would either use an agent in Slack, which I still do because it still makes sense for me, or I would try to do it with ChatGPT or something, and it works as well. But this feels like power, and it feels like actual automated work that I now don't have to even think about too much, as long as I have the agents that are able to do these things. So I need a new marketing page, a new campaign, or some positioning update, or even want to incorporate what I learned about a competitor or alternative. I can do that very easily because I have a few of these bots set up, and they work kind of magically work together. I think one of the biggest things is they magically work together. And I was trying to do that in Slack with channels and things like that, and it was definitely more of a pain by far.
So one of the things that, around that, which is super fascinating, is that it's kind of reminds me of sort of skill use, right? So you have like a bunch of skills. And so like knowing which skills to call against, but it's kind of a little bit more than skills, right? It's skills that also can act on its own, and sort of instead of like spinning up sub agents on the fly for a skill, it sounds like the way you have this with like a last 30 days, which started off as a skill, but now you've upgraded it to like a permanent bot, because if you want to, you can talk to it directly and just say, hey, like what's happening for this specific keyword or industry on your own, or your other bots can run it as a sub agent to like help them in their thing. So it kind of changes the shape of, I guess, getting to what the output that you want.
Yeah, it's just a different way to get to almost the same goal. And we're all just trying to get to that goal better, faster, cheaper, whatever way you want to think about it. This is the fastest way I can get to those goals. And I tried doing it other ways, and it's fast, but it's not this fast, and it's not this easy. And the history accrues. And if you do what I do and just tell it, put everything in a private repo in GitHub, it'll go save everything there. So then that's saving all the context and data it's creating somewhere. The funny thing is, like, until recently, I don't think we had a similar platform or tooling the way that, let's say, Epic has tooling internally because they have unlimited tokens with Claude or whatever you want to call it. We now have that power and capabilities, and actually probably more flexibility and more logical things with the computer that you get as part of your entire sort of Grok Bot account, that like we can test these things and do these things so easily. So like back in the day, I'd have to be like, oh, you want to use last 30 days? Oh, like connect it here, do this thing, put it in your Claude co-work and do this and do that. It's easy. It's easy if you are willing to do all that. But now with a Grok Bot, just put the link and say, hey, figure this out. I want you to be a bot that runs these for me. And that compresses it all the way down. So what do I need to know? I just need to know that thing exists that can do the thing I want. I mean, you could even get into, you could just ask the AI and it'll go find it. Yeah. You want to do research using AI, you will probably find last 30 days, or maybe there's something else out there I don't know about that'll help you, or a bunch of APIs out there, and then the agent will just take care of it. Again, I feel silly saying this to you because we were already trying to do all this stuff. But with Grokbot, it's almost like what all us crazy people were trying to do, jump through all the hoops, DevOps, etc., deal with the updates of these tools and how that breaks everything and all that. Everyone can do. And even how fast that happened is like, 5-6 months since OpenClaw and all that got popular. It's pretty impressive that we now have the tooling. There's been a lot of experiments out there as well. One thing I'll say, because I get hit up a lot with startups and stuff telling me, oh, you can do this with my startup tool or something. I'm like, yeah, but this is XAI or SpaceX or whatever they're calling themselves now. I think it's SpaceX, right? You're not going to trust them. And look what Elon's saying. Connect your bank account. You lose money, I got you. Holy shit. Really? So to me, I know there's Victor and Town and Hyper Agent and all these things. My trust with a bigger company doing this correctly is way higher than any of these startups. Maybe it's me jaded from being in startup land and knowing how things change and maybe they sell and stuff like that. But I feel like I can depend on this tool and the team behind it in a way that I wouldn't want to. Maybe I'm weird, but I wouldn't want a startup powering all this for me. Anthropic, cool as in on this vector. OpenAI, okay, awesome. Google, of course. Meta, maybe, but I'm bullish when they do something, but it's probably not going to be for work. the other thing I wanted to say about Grok Bot is it straddles a really good line between personal and work. I can use it for both, and I don't feel like I'm compromising. A lot of tools make it feel like a compromise.
Interesting. And what do you think that, like, what do they do in the product to like straddle that line really well?
I think today they did simple things that are a little messy, but not their fault until they figure out what they want to do about companies and organizations and all that, because they haven't figured that out, or all that. I'm sure they're going to figure it out. Is basically just the fact that I can connect multiple accounts from the same service into it. And that was like, I learned this 10 years ago when I was building an enterprise search tool. You were probably one of the users that wanted me to do that, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
It's like 101 product development. Hey, you have connectors, especially if it's prosumer. They're probably going to want you to connect multiple accounts from each connector. Figure it out. Right?
Yep.
That's what I mean. But I have love for the team simply because they're doing the right things and listening and building well compared to other things I've seen. Like Claude breaks all the time. Every update or every day, there's something weird that I see that I'm like, oh, they vibe coded it, right? I can't say the same about ChatGPT. They seem pretty solid. Every time I see stuff, I don't feel like it's vibe coded. Grok doesn't feel vibe coded either, but it has the advantage of all the patterns that we saw from all these harnesses and agents that were open source, and it's kind of applied a lot of them. So to me, the magic is how simple they've made something very complicated, and some of us know how complicated it used to be.
Yep. Yeah. So specifically, you can connect, let's say, your personal Gmail account as well as your work Gmail account. And that goes a long way. Like first, setting up a Gmail account on OpenClaw is like laughable, comparatively. So they made it really, really simple. Have you messed around with channels at all?
Yeah, for sure. Channels are awesome. Yeah.
And so that allows you to add multiple bots into like it differs from group chats, right?
So take my product marketing example. Put the product marketer in there, the agent. I'll put the last 30 days agent. I'll put myself in there. Maybe there's a couple other agents that I've made that maybe have like an agent that has context on something else, or even a copywriter if I want to go there, right? And shove them all together and literally make them jam on what I want them to jam on together, almost like explicitly compared to implicitly, where they might choose which one they want to talk to. And so we go in there. I've also done things where I'll ask the product marketer, hey, who should we have in this channel with us? And it'll tell me, oh, this one, that one, the other, because I've made a lot of these agents now, or whatever, bots. And it'll tell me which ones it wants in there. I even have one bot that's a librarian.
What does that do?
It takes books and things, content, books, PDFs, whatever, and turns them into stuff in a GitHub repo.
Oh, interesting.
Because I found myself feeding it. Yeah, I found myself feeding it these things. I don't want to always keep feeding the AI. Even now I have ChatGPT look at the GitHub with the library because I had those bots, or that bot, librarian bot, handle it. And what I mean is take a book, find all the frameworks, build the markdown. I mean, you name it. And I'm trying to get the librarian to essentially extract everything I can from books, PDFs, and even transcripts, anything like that, and turn it into AI compatible stuff in a repo that I can then, if I'm using ChatGPT for something, just say, hey, go look in the repo, find this thing, done. Because they're all connected to GitHub, right? And these are all private repos and stuff like that. These are things companies can do too. I'm doing it as an individual with my personal account and stuff like that, but you could easily do that as a company and get really organized around it. And I was already trying to do this stuff, but the friction was too high. Like you try to do this with OpenClaw and build a librarian like that, which I've tried multiple times. Something just doesn't work right somewhere. This just straddles that whole situation really well and makes it so that I can build things like that.
Yeah, rather than you having to deal with the DevOps, they're doing it for you. They're making sure that, if it breaks, it's trying again, it's reloading, et cetera, et cetera. I really like the idea of having kind of GitHub as your sort of back-end system. And I would imagine they'll eventually build it into the product, like Cursor's building their own.
Yeah, they have Origin, I think it's called, right? I actually am very bullish on what they can do if they plug it into Grok Bot properly and differentiate. Otherwise, there's very little differentiation compared to Git and GitHub.
Yeah. I think it's just a matter of scale, and there are other companies that are focused on that stuff too, like storage. And so I think we can talk more about this Grok bot stuff because I think it's super fascinating. Do you subscribe to the chief of staff meme and kind of have one bot that is, overseeing all the other bots, or is it on like a task specific? So if you have a product marketer that you talk to directly versus, an engineer type of bot.
Yeah, with this GitHub thing, the chief of staff is more a storage knowledge thing and context and less so a bot itself. So I don't prescribe, short answer, I don't prescribe to it. Longer answer, I'm not saying it's the wrong paradigm. I just use the paradigm differently, where it's like, well, I don't really believe in bottlenecks. So to me, the chief of staff concept is introducing a bottleneck. I'm not sure if I like that bottleneck. Now, that being said, do I have bots doing things for other bots and those being the ones I trust with finding out stuff or doing stuff? Yeah, absolutely. But that's more bot management type stuff. And I have some bots that help with that. But I think the overall concept is for a chief of staff, I'm trying to cover 50 to 80% of it by having the context and the data sitting there accessible to any of them. But even today, like when it did the 1800 commits, the first thing I said was like, hey, it looks like you made the repo really messy. Like one, why 1800 commits? Two, looks like you made the repo messy. Can you go clean it up? Do I want a chief of staff to go do that for some other bot? No. That being said, if I am the type of person that wants an admin or chief of staff that's my assistant personally, I think it makes perfect sense to use that concept and go after it. But personally, I'm maybe a little more fluid and I probably hop between tools a lot more than most people.
Mm-hmm. And so what other tools are you using besides Grok Bot?
So my current order where I probably use them equally as much right now is ChatGPT and Grok Bot. And the reason for that is I actually think ChatGPT is a very underrated product today.
Are you referring to the desktop app or the web app? What are you referring to?
I just mean the product ChatGPT.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is like the way they've done memories and projects and all this stuff, like it's gotten so much better over time beyond just the models getting better. And when I use Claude, it feels kind of clunky and it doesn't remember things or remember me and my stuff in the same way. I think they've improved some things with cowork or something having access. I don't remember what they did, but they said they did something recently. But that's been my biggest ChatGPT. I still use it a lot, and the specifically I know people like hearing about this stuff, but like specifically 5.6 Sol high is my just go to. Sometimes medium, but usually on high if my usage is fine. And it has been a flattening out for me of like, oh, I don't really reach for other models much when I have that one.
Not even Fable.
The short answer is I save Fable for the engineers.
Okay.
They really need it. Like, and I'm not trying to engineer those things in the way an engineer is, like a real engineer, like someone who, not like me and you, try to engineer shit, but a real engineer needs Fable. I'm there. So we have accounts for them just for that purpose. Mm-hmm. But for my use cases, I found Fable to be heavy-handed and not necessary. In most cases, even like ultra or extra thinking or whatever on Sol it gets me pretty darn far. But I also am a little allergic to Topic's interface for Claude. I just think it's terrible. They've done a bad job building that product, in my opinion. Terrible job.
Yeah.
And I'm comparing it to ChatGPT. ChatGPT is not a terrible job, And what I mean by that is just vibe coded, broken, breaks. And I will be the first to admit I have a lot of baggage on that because I was around when it kept breaking every day. Mm-hmm. With every shit released, but I still feel that.
I also would say I'm in agreement with you. I think that both companies are vibe coding their stuff. The difference is that nobody at Anthropic is using the app anymore. Like they're all using Claude Tag. If you talk to anyone, they're like, "Oh yeah. I just have like my own channels in Slack, and I talk to the Claude Tag all day." And so when I heard that, I was like, oh yeah, no wonder the product's shit because nobody uses it.
And their excuse before that, not theirs, but ours, was, oh, they just care about code and the API.
Yeah.
And Claude Code, right? Or whatever. Yeah. Cool. Got it. Terminal, etc. Cool. So that was their excuse then. This is their excuse now. I'm not saying they're giving it. We are for them because we love them, obviously. But that product is shit when you try to use it straight up. And there is no excuse, vibe coded or not. that means, to your point, they're not putting the judgment on what they're shipping. Do you trust a company like that? That's all I would ask. Like, does that embody trust? And the answer is no. Forget even what Dario says and what opinions people are. The product needs to make me trust your business and your company.
Yep.
That product does not. Other products of theirs maybe do. That one does not. While with OpenAI and ChatGPT, honestly, I trust them because the product works. And they haven't lost my trust. Claude loses my trust like all the time with the product. Like,
yeah. Like the
this is a
decisions
problem
to
for them.
automatically like
Yeah.
to shut you down. Say, hey, you
Dude.
can't use Fable because you're trying to do a security audit on your own code. And then it's like, nope, sorry, you got to use our dumber model to do it. And so,
It's like,
yeah, I
they
get
don't.
that.
I'm writing an essay on this about companies and how they build products because they have inspired me. And the reason
They've
they've
lit a fire.
inspired me, I'm like, wait, like, y'all should be building the most best products for us on the planet if you have that many tokens and you're number one on revenue as a lab. Why are they not doing that? And I think your points are all correct if like they don't dog food it or whatever. But at the same time, a lot of products I built, I didn't dog food them every day because I built for someone else. So I don't think that's necessary. I think you just have to know that like you don't ship shit. You actually have judgment. You care, and maybe they say, oh, things are changing so fast, it's okay. But the trust is a problem. If I can't trust the product to do what I want the way I want it, when I want it, is it really a product for me? And the answer is no. And that's what Grok Bot so far has totally crushed and destroyed because the flexibility is there and the simplicity is there. Thus, the friction's so low. I feel really good giving it to people. And I'm coming from a place of having tried giving all these things to my friends. I know you do this too, and people I know, right? Grok Bot, stickiest by like a million miles, not even a mile, right? Like it's the stickiest. I send someone to it. They're like, what do I do? I'm like, figure it out. You have questions, ask me. They don't ask me questions. A few minutes later, a couple hours later, next day, they're like, hey, I did this. You were right. I'm like, oh, cool. What else are you going to do? And then they have ideas. But they never sat there and said it broke or it did this or it didn't do that. They were just like, yeah, I tried to get it to do X and it did X for me as well as anything could. And I don't know how I could have got X done without it. Obviously, these are people that might not be aware that you could do X with Claude or ChatGPT, but like that's the whole point of the world we're in right now. So many people don't have that knowledge and shouldn't necessarily. They just want things to work. That's my mini rant. I'll get off my high horse.
Yeah, no, I think it's right frame because, the people who say, oh, you could just do this, that, and the other thing, like you can just contort this way, and all of a sudden you can get ChatGPT to do the same thing Grok Bot does. You can do, this other thing. And
sure.
You're like, yeah, but no one's going to do that. Yeah. Right? And like the simplicity of putting cute eyes on it or a cute animation to just, indicate that this is, working for you is all that it takes to remove the fear and the friction of just getting started.
When you use a product, you want to feel like the people that built it care about you, the user. Mm-hmm. There's no situation where you don't want to feel like that. None. So if that's the case, then Grokbot's really nailed that feeling. And you're right. It's those little things too. It's like you can hover over that little colored thing anytime and it'll tell you what it's doing. Sounds really small. And we have little pieces of it in other places like Anthropic has some stuff ChatGPT does. But the way they do it, because there's no other crap involved, is so simple. Right? They don't have the tabs or any of that. I don't think they're going to add all those things because they seem to understand elegance of the simplicity that they've created with the interface. So I think that's really it. And like, honestly, it's like the kind of interfaces I was mocking up for this stuff when I was like thinking about what do we do with this? How do we get out of Slack? My biggest thing is how do we get out of Slack now that we're in Slack? Because Slack is not doing us any favors. We can't, we don't have access to all our data when we use Slack.
Right. And so they gate it or they put it behind like a big paywall in order to get it. Totally. I think the interesting thing that people have tried, like Buzz, my co-founder likes to say that Buzz is like too, cypherpunk for its own good, but they have sort of similar ideas around the simplicity and playfulness around it. But I still think like it's not the right shape.
Buzz is really clunky. Yeah. Like it's just really, 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 really clunky. And you can tell that it's very optimized for engineering. Yeah. And I'm not sure if that's doing them any favors. And also, I asked people who tried Buzz and they're like, yeah, I tried to install it, couldn't install it. Like, that's just a basic, I don't know what the issue is, but that's a basic problem. But Love that they're doing it. It's good that we have options, but I don't think Buzz is the option that I would go with in any reality, frankly.
So you're basically in this stuff all day, every day. Are there things that you don't delegate to AI?
My opinion on an interface we're about to ship, or like
Okay.
my opinion on a website. Like I'm now flipped the other way where like I've never been into the flashy websites in the first place. Like a lot of people like the fact that you can do all this crazy stuff with CSS, HTML, this, that, and the other. I've never been into that because that gives me like Flash vibes. Back in the day when sites were all Flash, and I'm not into that. Like just my own things, skeuomorphic, all that, super dope. Not my thing. I like seeing it, but like I want to build sites that don't look vibe code. So when the AI does it, great. It made a wireframe. Let's judge it. So I to be frank though, with the answer to your question is judgment. If I'm going to publish something, post it, ship it, let it be in front of other people that don't care how it was built or created, then I need to really be the last mile. That I know a lot of people have different takes and try stuff, but like, show me their stuff. I'll probably have a negative opinion about some part of it because they didn't pay attention. Some of this is just AI slop words and sentences and all those patterns. Other ones are eyelashes on designs or a specific aesthetic palette. It's not even a color palette. It's like an aesthetic palette that includes colors and the way it matches the colors. You could tell that ChatGPT or Claude designed it. And
Yep.
like, I don't want to see websites like that. I don't want website. And again, I know I will. I don't want websites to be so muted that they all have the same patterns and we all get used to them.
But isn't that something that I remember you built when you were at Dropbox, you built like something to kind of like help people like provide like their taste or how they want things to look for.
Yeah.
For AI?
So when I was there, one of my favorite things that we built was an ability to take what you already have and turn it into an AI powered template and recreate it. So for example, if you had 5 roadmap docs that were great, maybe they pass reviews or whatever it is your job is, and they're great, we would take those 5 and our AI, and this was about a year ago, our AI would create an AI powered template. Then you could take a transcript from a call, shove it in there, and it'll make the exact type of roadmap you want, document. Or you could take, notes or anything, or you could even just talk into it and you'd be able to get it to build the scaffolding and probably get really far and draft you something. In fact, I pushed really hard to call them drafts because at that time, I think that was a better way to think about it. So, but the big thing out of that, that's the lesson or thing that I keep reusing and taking back is you have to show AI what good looks like. And so anything I try to do, I'm always trying to find a good example to give it and then have it deconstructed and almost create these AI powered template type things. And then I'll go have it do the thing I want. So for example, if I want to build a new homepage and I like a bunch of role models that are out there, as well as some alternatives or competitors to what I'm doing, I would give AI all of that and give them the URLs and all that. And I would actually say, go get all the info. Oh, they're using copy? Great. Take that copy and write me a positioning doc for each and every one of those websites and businesses from the websites, from the source material of the actual websites, which I like the words they use and all that. Then it would create that. Then if I want to create my positioning doc, now I have these 5 positioning docs derived from other websites because I like their words and what they're saying. And then I can take those and say, okay, I got these 5. Great. Now make me money. And so I try to just systematically do that workflow on almost everything I do. There's not anything I can think of right now where that workflow isn't a part of the sort of, or those steps are a part of what I'm trying to, what the workflow is to get like good outputs. It's garbage in, garbage out.
Right.
That's all all I'm going on.
And so do you put all that stuff in GitHub? Like, how do you keep track of what good looks like for yourself? Like a lot of people, back in the day would have like second brain systems.
Swipe files is like the marketing one. Yeah. All GitHub all day, or it's sitting in folders in my local computer, but I can sync those with GitHub and all that. So GitHub all the way. I don't see another, like people have pitched me memory and concept storage stuff. I've tried to implement stuff, even QMD and all these things and embeddings. I like that. I do use that quite a bit. But at the end of the day, if it's sitting in GitHub, I know any bot, any agent can go get to it. Or I can download the zip and just upload it somewhere where I need to.
Yeah. Yeah. And regarding that, like you had mentioned that you save stuff locally. I know that you're a big proponent and believer of local AI. So we talked about kind of Grok Bot, and that's, cloud AI. How are you navigating, or what are you delegating towards your local AI inference?
Yeah, so I think local AI for me started as like a really big curiosity, and then it has ended up as like basically maybe an obsession of some kind. Because when we had the open source agents and those were the only game in town, that and Claude, because they're the ones that essentially Peter derived OpenClaw from. We could put him in the cloud or we can put him on our computers. And he's got a bunch of other stuff that's really cool that was essentially pieces of OpenClaw's harness, essentially. And when I saw all that stuff, I'm like, oh, I have a lot of use cases where I need the compute, I need the AI to browse websites, or even use a computer. I'm building desktop apps. So a lot of the stuff I'm doing with local models, I think one of the biggest use cases that's always running is essentially QA. So I have a box that sits there and is trying to run QA on our desktop apps because one of our desktop apps works across other apps. Like it's meant to integrate with every app you use. That requires a lot of testing. These days, when someone does a support ticket, like the other day, not working in Microsoft Teams properly, and it's just to autocomplete on a form field, right? That's the tech.
This is for the product type ahead.
Yeah, it's for type ahead. And we were able to spin up we were able to have the bot just by saying, hey, this don't work in Microsoft Teams. And with everything else we set up, again, this is not like out of the box, but it's all set up. You just hit the bot with that in Slack and say, hey, this ain't working. Like, go fix it. And then it would go figure it out, test it, make screenshots, videos, figure out what's wrong, debug it, and go all the way to a PR and saying, hey, it's fixed. Here's a PR. Some human should probably review. I can't do that with Grok Bot either yet. And I don't think anyone should try to do that with a lot of these things because there's a lot of scaffolding and stuff to do. But the machines are very capable when you do that.
Supposedly,
then layer in the local
do that,
models.
right? I want to just explain for people who are not familiar with Type Ahead. Type Ahead is kind of like an amazing product where, if you're familiar in Gmail, like auto suggesting, what to type next, this kind of runs locally on your machine and it works in any app. And like I've tweeted out this before, but I'm a big voice to text person, but when I'm not using voice to text, I'm Type Ahead all day, and it's been like really amazing product. So thanks for building it.
Yeah, for sure. And you were saying like you can do this in Grokbot, but it's a Linux box. It's not a Mac that they've spun up for you. Right. To your point. Right. So if you want to do anything in Linux or the web, Grokbot will let you do it. But the power of a Mac, and then you throw in the local model. So for example, when we're summarizing anything on a website or any of that, we're going to use a local model that's running on the machine instead of going to the cloud because the tooling's already set up to do that. But also, we will take things we've done with the cloud and outputs we have there, and then essentially use evals and whatever fancy fine tuning, whatever words you want to use, whatever you want to call it, to get the local models to get as close as possible to what we get from the cloud. So then we're just bringing essentially workloads off of the cloud into our local sort of environment and testing all the local models. So this is why it's a little bit of obsession, and all this stuff can get super insane and useless. But any workload that's happening with the frontier models, we're trying to figure out how can we make them happen without those frontier models on our local machines.
Yeah, which is always fun. Like I'll experiment with local machines, running different harnesses or testing stuff, but I haven't gotten to the same extent that you've had with the amount of machines and testing, because I guess you're testing more products. And so those are kind of, we talked about, how to use AI, like where both right now, simplest removing friction with Grokbot and on local side. But, as a product builder and CEO of Crazy Egg, like how are you thinking it from a product building perspective or a user perspective? Like, are people now thinking from like an agent first perspective? Like, how are you designing products differently now that agents are starting to become more distributed? They're not necessarily here for everybody. There's still years ahead of that. But how are you thinking about it, building a product, now in 2026?
I think the moment right now in my mind is basically this statement, which is if we were to build it today, what would we build? I don't think I ask myself that as much as I'm asking myself that these days. So probably a couple times a month, I'll just go, oh, what would we do? And if it's any different than what we're doing, I really need to think really hard about what we're doing. And so
meaning if you were to start Crazy Egg today,
what would we do?
What would you do? Got it.
Yeah. And that's been the most clarifying answer. Even outside of Type Ahead, we have a new product and it's like a meeting recorder. I know you've used it when it was really janky, when local models weren't there. They're there now.
Yep.
But the way open source works and the way all that works is it's usually first or early and then a lot of promotion on something. So we were going to open source it a year ago. But a year ago, it wasn't good enough. But then 6 months after that, so about 6 months ago, people started open sourcing their versions of these media recorders, but they were shit. Forget even the UX. Like the UX is terrible in most of them, which is a pet peeve. But okay, you can get away with that if the tech's good. The tech wasn't good. And then recently, with some models and some UX stuff we've done and tweaking we've done, we made it so you can do a lot of the stuff that locally that Granola does natively. But now competing with Granola isn't what our objective is. While a year ago it would have been. Right. And so constantly just asking that as things evolve. And you could say, oh, why'd you spend a year? Blah, blah, blah. Well, I didn't have a choice because the local models weren't there. And that was the whole shtick. But now, even though it has local models and does all that for you, we hook into the Codex harness. So you could use Codex with it. No problem. Or we hook into bring your own key so you can get all that because it's the meeting recorder and all that. Also a note-taking thing. And you can chat with all the knowledge that's in there. So, it's like, I think one of the problems today is where does your product start and where does it end? Which means somewhere another product starts and somewhere another product ended, right? I'm not sure if that paradigm, which was a very classic paradigm of software, is as relevant. But then I don't know, because if you don't do that, then everything can do everything. And if everything can do everything, do we need anything? Again, not getting philosophical, but like this is what I struggle with day to day in trying to figure out how to build this stuff, which is like, one, things are changing so fast. If I were to start today, what would it look like? And two, again, this is separate, but like building so easy, we're back to like, again, what everyone's starting to say a lot more, which is what about distribution or how you go to market and all that. So if I were to really take a harsher look at it, it isn't what would we build today. It's how would we go to market today and build the thing that works with the go to market. And I think if you don't do that, it ain't going to work. Another reason I'm very bullish on Grok Bot. They have an entire top social media platform as marketing. And even if they don't do anything extra with that, which, they probably won't, but even if they don't, which is where we're kind of at right now, it's Grok. That's X all day. Yep. So I think that advantage would make me, if I were trying to compete with Grok Bot, kind of annoyed and being like, oh, crap. And I'd be studying the crap out of their numbers to see if it's worth competing. Because it might not be if your goal is to win and be number one. If your goal isn't to be number one, that's a very different story. Or maybe you find some differentiation, like do it just for hospitals. I don't know. Random idea.
No, I think that doing it for hospitals is the answer, is how you compete, right? Like specializing, you had shared a lot right now, and I was just trying to process it all. I think that when you could build everything, or anyone can build everything, like where do you focus? And so the meditation around, hey, what would we build today? And then, it sounds like the adage of like, serial entrepreneurs and seasoned entrepreneurs focus on distribution first and figure out, it's not the product, it's the distribution that sort of gets you to get a chance to continue building that product.
Yep.
And so the question around, how would you compete is, I think, by specialization, right? And so just because everyone's going to have every single feature on your phone, right? Like in the same way, there was my friend, like Andrew Parker, this is maybe 20 years ago now, took a screenshot of Craigslist and was like, oh, there's a startup for every single Craigslist section that became like $1 billion company in of itself, right? So like housing became like Airbnb and Zillow and all this other stuff, right? And I think that, and because Craigslist to some extent was like the everything website for the .com era. And I think we're going to have the same thing where like ChatGPT, Claude, Grok is going to try to be the everything app for everybody. And they're going to try, and that'll be the era of this time. And whether that happens, over 2 years or 10 years, time will tell. But then I think you'll have the specialization of the people that are focused on the flows for a hospital or a specific type of vertical that they just can't compete, right? And so maybe the market won't be as large because of distribution, or maybe they will. I don't know. But I think that there will be a chance. I still believe that specialization around this stuff, like I'm a believer that we're going to have, thousands upon thousands of agents that you can interact with, disposable agents, like just agents on agents, right? And so we just don't have the right surface areas for them yet. And people are starting to build them out. And so, yeah, it's definitely an interesting question in 2026 of like, yeah, what do you build? How do you build it? How do you focus on distributing it in order to be number one? And sometimes like the distribution, like my favorite distribution strategy right now has been the Instinct launch, right? Which is cool. Like someone, I got an invite to Instinct, played with it, got it. And I was like, yeah, this is great. Someone built out a seamless way to have an agent do stuff for you. Great. So who spent, 400 hours building out my agent, no one's going to do that. They did it for everyday users.
But it's poke. It's poke. So, I don't think it's extra special. And I think that there's a whole thing to be said about that. Yeah, I know.
I wasn't mentioning it for its product chops. Sorry. I was mentioning for their distribution was VCs and on X. And that allowed them to, and this is a proven distribution hype for fundraising, right? And I think they're like in the last 3 weeks, they've had 3 different funding rounds. It sounds like so.
And that's not true. Obviously, it's just the optics and what's being pushed out, right? I mean, the other thing is, it was really funny that nobody who was talking about it that was a VC talked about who the founders were. There was a game being played on that one. Just saying.
Yeah.
And it was very transparent. And I'm like, well, great. Like, I don't like products that we got gamed, regardless of how good they are. I hope they do well, whatever. Startups love startups, but nah, that ain't it. That's not like, I get it.
That's not,
but yeah. But that ain't, not even that. It's like, it's distasteful. I'll just say it. It's completely distasteful in my opinion on how they did it. And I think the VCs also showed lack of taste. Yeah.
It was a game. But to be honest, I think that going back to removing friction, the fact that you could just text a number, you didn't have to, do anything. People didn't play with poke because poke actually had friction. When it first started, it came out, you had to like haggle with the bot to get.
But that was cute at the time. And that got them what they needed or wanted, correct. Which was, back to your point, distribution. I mean, really, you're talking about hacking X. That's all this is. It's all just hacking X. And that's why I think it was distasteful. It's like, you wouldn't tell us that you backed it, and you wouldn't tell us who you're backing, yet you're talking about it as a VC.
Right.
There is some fiduciary shit going on there, no matter how you look at it. Right. And I'm not saying it's not a gray area and all those people are lovely, but it was distasteful to someone like me that can see through it and be like, oh, this is not how I want startups to blow up. I want them to blow up because people use them and want to share them genuinely. Right. And also there's other ones that have done that. Town did the same thing. And I get it. You should do that and leverage your investors. No issue there. But it's just showing lack of taste across the board.
So here's the pop quiz. What startup has done a tasteful job of whether launch or distribution?
I think Poke was super tasteful because they made the product the distribution by making it so interesting on that you had to haggle with it. Like look, distribution hacking is psychology hacking.
Yes.
And so that's what I'm saying is distasteful. It's distasteful when you do it and it's super transparent and people can look back and be like, oh, and you can't do it if you're a VC, not to harp on VCs, they're all great. But if you're a VC, you can't do that over. Well, you know what I mean? You can't do that over and over and over again. And that's what I mean by the tastefulness. It's like there's a lot of nuance to this very specifically, but I think about this a lot because you're just hacking psychology. If you do that the second time, the same VCs for something else, you're just eroding the trust that people have with you. A lot of distribution is also trust, right?
Yes.
That's why the hacking part's funny. You're actually trying to hack trust. It's like, trust me. So what was hacked with Poke? Not trust. It was simply human psychology of this weird experience that they probably tried and were like, holy crap, this is a fun experience. It's really weird. People might talk about it, right? Again, there's no guarantee there. The difference is if your VCs start talking about your company because they gave you money in your seed round and stuff like that, and it's on X and people trust these VCs, great, right? You're going to get distribution. How many times can startups do that? The same startup? I don't know. Different startups? Again, if it's tasteful, it all will be fine. But if it's not, you're just going to erode. Everyone's brands are just going to get eroded over time and we're done, right? Everyone's cooked. That's the problem I see. So I think if you're thinking about distribution, I would be thinking about channels that don't require all this other funny business.
Yep.
And ones that actually have you pay, you get a user, they sign up, they pay you, you know your CAC, but I'm an old school marketer like that. It's like we should know our funnels and things like that. And yes, brand and all this stuff is part of it. But high level, it's like I'd be trying to figure out how to get distribution. In some ways, I'm almost of a different mindset than I have been historically, which is like, I'd rather just figure out what is worth distributing through the distribution channel more so than I have this thing I want to go distribute through that distribution.
Yes. I think that's kind of the framework is start with distribution first and figure it out that way. Right.
Yeah. That means you kind of need to reserve this idea of what your product is like and put that in the background because you have to be open to what you learn.
I feel like we can keep on chatting because I feel like there's something else. I think what do you think right now, leave it on a note around just overall the day-to-day stuff. What do you find yourself wishing more people are doing that you don't see them doing with the tools that we do have access to these days?
I think we have the Google problem.
Okay, say more.
And the Google problem to me is like you and I and a bunch of people, let's say at this pace is probably 50,000, 100,000 people are using this stuff very aggressively, trying to tinker with it, have the wherewithal to deal with all the friction and are tech curious. Not even early adopters, like before early adopters, like tech curious. Like if it's new, we're like going towards it and running at it, right? And trying to figure it out together. Like I could see crowds of us just running at things, right? That's not everyone. So what I wish everyone was doing is just learn one thing you could do that's extra that you're not doing with AI today. I mean, literally like the thing I was saying earlier, which is like feed it context, show it what good looks like, and then use it. Because that's what I mean by the Google problem. The Google problem is people got so lazy and aren't generally lazy about this. They just type in really short stuff. They don't like re-keyword it. They don't redo it. They don't try again. So a lot of people are still there with AI where they might in replies go back and forth, but not really trying to use AI in a more advanced way. And it's a hell of a lot more powerful than Google.
Yeah. I think that's the interesting thing is like just trying. And I think because people are like afraid that it's not going to kind of work. So they're not really sure, when like to do it or they're going to break something. But you're saying like, hey, there's no extra charge basically. Just try it. Try it a little bit more every day.
Like did it cost anyone anything to do some site and search the site using Google or file type PDF?
Right. Yeah. Like advanced searches. Like nobody did.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, right. And we did. We enjoyed it, but we were tech curious, right? So this is why Grok Bot is so awesome. I could throw anyone at it. And they're not thinking about OpenClaw or Hermes or, tokens or anything. They're not even thinking about tokens with the thing. They don't even let you choose the damn model, which is all where we're going anyway. We were going there. And they happen to be now part of a lab, because this is the Cursor team, right? Part of a lab and are thinking from first principles, so to speak, about where we're at right now and what is a product that being created, not the parody product that matches Anthropic's or OpenAI's products. One of the reasons GrokBot works is because it doesn't hit those paradigms at all, actually. Sure, but that's everywhere. It just thought of it from a different perspective, or they thought of it from a different perspective, or at least I feel that when I use it, which is this is a place where you make these bots and talk to them. That's not ChatGPT, and that's definitely not Claude either, right? Like that's, I think, the big unlock. And I see every lab wanting their piece of this pie. The problem is they had separate apps, they combined apps. Claude is still a mess, as we talked about. And so what are they going to do? So when I think about it from chess, and now this is Elon's chess game. He's the new player that has legitimately entered in now. He's playing chess. It's a chess game, right? And one of the moves is do something they are not going to do anytime soon or cannot do.
Yep.
Can they build yet another separate app? That's what I'm trying to get at. And the answer is no, because ChatGPT and Claude would have to pivot pretty hard. Maybe they'll do it to let me make bots in there today. As in,
it's
the model
coming.
and all that.
It's definitely
I hope so.
There's definitely a version right now.
Great.
On each team.
So,
PM has like a codex version of bots.
But check it out. Check it out real quick. Then we're back to the Google problem because they are just adding more crap into their already bloated products. Then what? Like, are they going to go highlight bots as the thing? I don't know, right? Like, that's what I mean by they'd have to hard pivot to touch Grok Bot today. And yes, they should do it. They will do it. I mean, this is how PMing works. Got it. But we're back to the same problem because these products create sprawl and all this baggage with all these toolings and things. And we both know people don't want to watch videos to learn how to use interfaces.
Yep, exactly. Okay. I feel like, I can keep going, dude. But let's call it. Let's wrap it up. Appreciate you. Thanks for taking the time to chat.
Thank you.
I know you're hosting some webinars and teaching folks.
Every week, I try to host a live AI session and teach people stuff. Try not to get as ranty as I do with you.
Sign up for that?
Yeah, it's on Hiten.com, so my first name.com.
Great.
That's where people can find me. But I think they got a good preview.
Yeah.
People got a good preview of like what we do when we hang out. So just saying, that's what this felt like. This is great.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay. Catch you later.
Cool.